let's talk a little bit about how you came into this practice that you have, and working with people, and helping them kind of reconnect in a way that becomes beneficial for them, not only their health, but their emotional well-being. I'm sure all these things are connected, as we know.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think, maybe 2 years after my awakening, maybe a year, time, I don't remember exactly the timing, maybe a year and a half, let's say a year and a half, I hyperextended my knee dancing. And I literally had pain when I was walking. And at the time I was I was making a living doing festivals, selling my artwork at different festivals in the country. And I couldn't do festivals if my knee was this way. So I remember after a few weeks going into meditation, and like in my altar, I was praying. I said, Creator of all that is, please come assist me to heal my knee. And I didn't know what was going to happen. But at that moment, that was like a huge shift, another like initiation. I felt like a blanket of goosebumps, like literally an angel was hugging me and lifting my hands. Like my hands for the first time lifted on their own. Like before it was just a lot of movements of like moving me in spirals and like circular motions, but my hands literally lifted, were guided to my knee, and guided to certain spots on my knee, and started touching in certain areas, like to start healing it. And I kind of got scared. I was like, I at that moment I did get scared. I didn't really understand what was happening. I started crying because the shield, like the blanket of goosebumps to feel like I was held by an
Oh
angel.
yeah.
It's just like I started sobbing and crying because it was like, whoa, there's like a being on me right now. And that was like, that was a really big spark of, whoa, like that was a big deal.
Wow.
So, and then I was like, wow, I have like this ability to, there's this knowledge that comes through. I don't know how I know, I just know, right? Autopilot, like
Yeah.
intuitive. So I started offering people along the path that I met. Like if somebody said they had pain, I'm like, can I work on you?
Yeah.
Started offering my service almost to everyone. I'm like, I have this thing that I do.
Welcome to Faust. I'm Faust Chicho, and today I'm sitting here with May Levy. Let me tell you about May and what she's been up to. First, she was born in Houston, Texas, and she moved to Israel when she was 9. Her career in the arts began after she left the military and Israel when she was 20. From 2006 to 2011, she traveled to 25 countries with her camera, capturing some of the most stunning movements and moments of the world at that time. Her eye as a photo documentarian is truly jaw-dropping. She's a gifted digital artist. She's a channel, and she's an intuitive healer, now operating out of Nevada City, California. Her passion to contribute to the world has always been her inspiration, discovering and exploring ancient practices and the application of merging energy through the material world has been the compass for her incredible body of work as an entrepreneur, an artist, and a healer. And it's a pleasure and an honor to have her on the show. Thank you so much for beaming in, May. It's so great that we finally figured out a time and got this going.
Thank you, Faust. I'm so happy to be here. Very exciting. I'm very honored to be here with you.
Oh, no, the honor is mine. Thank you. Yeah. So, my God, May, where to begin with you? I'm like, oh my God. Like, when you were like, are we going to do this all in one show? I was like, I wonder what she means. And then I got into all your stuff and I'm like, oh, now I know exactly what she means. Yeah. There's so much that we could talk about, but I guess what I'm really fascinated by and interested in, I think is right around the time period of your life after you got back from, this like huge global tour you were on, taking these amazing photographs, and traveling, and how everything kind of started changing for you. Like, I think it was around 2017.
Yes. I'll share, because there was an event that happened in my life that brought me back to the United States. And if it wasn't for that event, I wouldn't be here. So I
That's
really
the event
feel
I'm
like
looking
that was
for.
my Saturn return. What?
That's probably the event I'm wondering about then. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was in school in Israel for studio photography, and maybe this is just a little kind of story where I didn't see myself as a good photographer. I thought I was really sucky. And so I decided to open, I went to a bookstore one day and a book fell out of the shelf and said, the book was called How is This Idiot Rich and I'm Not? And it just
Oh,
fell on the floor in front of me. So I picked up the book, I read it, and decided that I was going to be a millionaire. This is way before my awakening. And I followed the path of money back then. And I entrepreneured a business called Pancake, which was, I invented a pancake and entrepreneured it for a year. And it was pretty cool. It was actually really neat. And then I signed a contract with the con artist that
oh
stole
boy.
everything I had. And that brought me back to the United States to work in an old job that I worked. And I made enough money to pay off my debt, and then had a little bit of money, and then went to New Orleans. And that was 2015. That brought me to a path of being an artist in New Orleans, which led me to a human being that I met that became really significant on my path. It was like a mirroring effect happening between us. And then after 4 years of experiencing that dynamic, it was like one of the most important relationships in my life. It brought us to a separation in 2017. And that's when I had my Kundalini awakening. So it was like one thing led me to another. And it was like one catalyst after another that brought me to that point, which was really when I got to that point where we separated, it was just like, everything like blew open. I had to, the reason I'm sharing the story is, I mean, there's a whole other layers to all of what just happened, what I explained, but the point is that I had to strip away my identity, my country, my parents, everything that I've been taught in order to get to where I am today. Like really be separated from everything, the religion, I come from a Jewish family, the language, the everything, and just like relearn everything from scratch to understand who I am.
I know exactly what you're talking about, May. It's I feel like it's there are only a small percentage of people on the planet who I think are raised in an awakened state, and even they, I'm sure, have a lot to discover about the other side of things, right? Like it's just more and more, like the older I get, the more I realize like everything that happened to me growing up, the things that I thought were my greatest burdens, ended up being the greatest gifts, because they led to my spiritual awakening, for lack of a better word for it. I mean, a reason for me to separate and realize that I knew nothing that was, important or true, and relearn everything, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very big step when you realize that your parents are just people.
Yeah.
And they're just people doing their best, and your real mother and father is the creator and the earth, and it's the balance between both, and then rediscovering who you are through spirit. And it's a whole different and that's I feel that's why we're here. It is that path. Like if we know it or not, we're supposed to come here to clear our karma and our soul so we can reach those state of consciousness into that highest vibration of love.
Agreed.
Beautiful journey. It's a very tricky one, but it's a beautiful journey.
It certainly is. Yeah, it's I mean, it's an adventure, but yeah, it's tricky is definitely a good word for it. What do they say? All roads lead back to Rome.
It's tricky because the reality that we exist in, it's like we're put in this all different kinds of consciousness everywhere, and then we have to be the awakened beings and like navigate through all of it. I think that's the tricky part, but it's an adventure like anything else.
Yeah. And as it becomes more complicated because, we're living with so many people on this planet, and there's so many things happening, and we have this incredible consciousness that's dealing with this technology that is the human body, this interface. And the body is like, do this, do that, go, oh my God, oh my God, the body's always doing everything. And the consciousness is like trying to ride this horse. And it becomes challenging. And so there's all that going on top of everything we just said. And it's like this human experience. Wow. It's crazy. But I I want to go back to your experience, because I know that it culminated with a Kundalini experience. And I guess my question is, because I love this topic. It's so fascinating, and it manifests itself in such unique ways, in people, and the reasons it comes about, I mean, continue to blow me away. But what I want to know is, did you know that's what was like, how long? Because some people have no idea, they're like, I didn't know what that was. I was told, later when I was telling someone who I trusted what happened to me. Did you know what was going on? Or like, were you just like, kind of in the middle of this storm?
I didn't know what Kundalini was. I was going through so much heartache at the time, like really somebody that I love very deeply. And it ended kind of like nasty. And so I was really just like, what am I going to do with my heart? Like it hurt so much. And I had a friend that's like, oh, I started meditating with Headspace. It was like an app. I was like, okay, I can try that. And I did meditation before for months, and I didn't like it. I actually hated it. And I was like, okay, but I'm going to revisit it from like, there's nothing left but God kind of thing. So, so I started meditating every day, and I started with 3 minutes a day just to like settle into it.
Yeah.
And after 4 days, I was like, okay, this feels good. 5 minutes. And then added 10 minutes. And then by the time I was doing 20 minutes, I was meditating in front of a mirror. Oh, it's important to add that 2 days before this happened, I just do want to add this. 2 days before this happened, I went to see this powerful psychic woman, and she said that all my energy is stuck in my sacral. All my chi is stuck there, and that I need to do a special bath to release that energy. So she gave me a bath recipe. This was 2 days before, I think it was like a super moon in December. Like, wow. This is exactly 4 years ago, I believe, right? 17. Yeah. So she gave me a recipe, and she told me to add white flowers to represent purity and to say this prayer. She gave me this prayer to say before I went in the water. So 2 days later, I'm meditating underneath the supermoon, and I'm in front of a mirror, and I'm sitting and like just doing my thing. And then I feel the sensation in my third eye, and it started moving my head. And when I started feeling my head moving voluntarily, I opened my eyes, and I'm like, am I possessed? Like, is there a ghost in here? I was in New Orleans at the time. Like,
yeah.
I'm like, what's going on? And I got a little scared, and I decided to let it go. And then the next day I approached it again, and I was kind of like waiting for the sensation to come.
Yeah.
It showed up after like 2 minutes, and I'm like, okay. So I allowed it to happen. Like I allowed it to consume my body and just take over. And it started moving my head. It started moving me from my throat chakra. It started moving my body in circular motions from different areas in my body. And I was like, okay, took my phone, and I started Googling head spinning in meditation, body spinning in circular motions in meditation. What does this mean? And then I found a lot of information about Kundalini, and started researching about it. 3 days later, there was this blue light hovering above my bed. Something woke me up, and then I saw like this blue hovering light, and it felt very pleasant, hovering over my bed. And that's been a theme for me, like knowing that blue energy is kind of like guiding me. Later, I learned about Archangel Michael, Pleiades. I do connect Pleiadians energy with blue color for some reason. And I know that my soul has been ascended or traveled from there to here in I don't know, higher self is Pleiadian and Lemurian. So
no Arcturian.
Yes, it happened like after that. Like that was the beginning of my rebirth. And then every night, every day was a new thing. Like there was just one thing after another. It's like having a genie in your body that's alive. That's always breathing and alive, and you can talk to it in you can really conduct it if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But it has
Or let it conduct you.
or let it. Well, I did in the beginning. It was
Yeah.
so powerful in the beginning. It was really like, psh, psh, psh. It
Yeah.
was so powerful that one day I actually said, no, you got to calm down. Like you
Yeah.
can't. I talked to it as if it was a separate entity from me. And then it guided me to do this. Like,
Yeah.
okay, like fine. And then it really toned it down a little bit. Like
That's
it
so,
kind of, it does, I have a relationship with it.
that's so, that's so awesome. You know, if you've ever had a Kundalini experience, and I think for most people, they'll say that at first, like when at first, it's like, I mean, one just goes try to sit on a tornado. You know what I mean? It's like it feels
Exactly
impossible
like
to control. You know, and it has you. You know, very much. Your first meeting with it is, you know, it's like it can be intense. I know. So for some people, very, very, very intense. You know,
it does feel like a tornado actually, because it's circular. So
yeah,
a lot of times it does feel like you're in a tornado. And the reason why I think it's so intense is because the first stages of it, it really purifies the heavy density of the body. So it really works really hard to do that. And it takes a lot of energy to do that. So it feels like it's like, whoa, and you're
no
not used to
wonder
it.
I almost felt like I almost died.
I
No
really
wonder
know
I
what
was
you're
like,
talking about. I've had experiences where I really thought that I was going to die.
I mean, it got, I don't know, you know, it got a little scary, but it was intense, you know, but I wouldn't trade a second of it. Of course. It was just, you know, it's almost like I was telling a friend of mine, I was like, listen, it's almost like when someone won't stop tickling you, you know, and you're like, okay, I'm going to die if you don't stop. You have to stop now. Okay, please stop. You know, it's like, it kind of gets like that after a while. I don't know.
I'm very grateful for this awakening. It's the
Yeah.
most beautiful thing ever that happened in my life. And I miss those days of that intensity. I miss
Yeah.
that relationship of like learning what's happening and what my abilities are. It's a really special because it's your connection to source. And it's the most beautiful thing ever when you realize that it's not just you and there is more.
Yeah.
Um, and coming up from that deep sleep that you never, like you didn't know that there was something more. So
Yeah. There's ways you can reinvigorate that, you know, if we can get into that too, if you want. But there are definitely, you know, there are certain meditations, there are certain ceremonies, there's any number of ways to kind of, if I mean, I'm not saying you should, I'm just saying if you were interested, of course, in kind of reconnecting to that energy in that way, there's certainly techniques.
well, I think that no, like the intensity that comes through me is actually more than before, but because I'm used to it, then it
Yeah.
doesn't, I'm not like in that excitement, I think maybe in the beginning, or maybe I am,
Yeah,
but
I was
I'm
gonna say, you know, it
always
doesn't,
ready to learn.
it never, I mean, I feel like it's, once you have a connection to it, I don't know if it's possible to lose that connection, you know. I mean, you couldn't function if you had it in the way that, you know, it came over you, because that, I mean, like, you know, that would be impossible. But like you must learn to govern it and to, you know, allow it to be what it is kind of by day. I don't know. But I mean, we can get into some of that. But so this started out, so this is so cool. Like, you were doing were you doing silent meditation? You were just listening to your breath? Is that the kind of like this simple way you started, just 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and expanding from there?
Yeah, I was listening to binaural beats. I don't remember which binaural beats I was listening to, but I think it was something for heart chakra or like calming the nervous system or something like that.
You had me at binaural. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the bath and like everything that happened under that super moon, plus the heartache that I was like really raw and ready to receive. Like I
Yeah.
was just like really just God, that's where I was going.
Yeah.
Really broke me open. Like that was the rest.
That's amazing. So for everyone who's listening, like, and you're like, what's binaural beats? It's so when you use a headset, there are any number of programs you can get, and I don't know if you could. I don't think you can find it on YouTube. You need something that creates the stereo sound that can separate the sound. But when your brain tries to entrain to binaural beats, like if you were to take one ear off and block it, it wouldn't sound remotely the same. Your ears are picking up different things, and your mind is trying to almost chase those things. And what happens is it there becomes this entrainment that happens with your brain waves, and they slow down, right? And we know now with neurofeedback devices how we can entrain the brain. And so when the brain slows down into the slower states, the states like theta and delta, delta is usually where people are sleeping. Theta is the brainwave that carries dreams. Those brainwaves are the door, for the mystical. They're the door for healing. They're the door for a lot of things. But a lot of times binaural beats can be tremendous experiences for people. You're not the first person I've spoken to who's had quite a remarkable experience using binaural beats. So God bless technology sometimes. Yeah.
Really, really.
Yeah, but keep going. I'm sorry. I just wanted, for everyone listening, I just wanted to kind of clarify the binaural thing, so people are like, what the hell? It's binaural. Some people don't know.
Binaural beats, you can find them on YouTube. And mother actually healed her thyroid that way.
Wow.
Little story about my mom. My mom was a theta healing teacher, and she always believed in frequency before I even understood it. But years ago, she went to the doctor, and the doctor told her that her thyroid is pretty much like she's going to have to be on medication for the rest of her life. And she was like, okay. She went home and she took a bunch of bottles of water and put it next to her computer. And she put binaural beats for thyroid healing right next to the computer for a few days, for 30 days. She did it. Well, actually 3 months. She was putting bottles of water next to the computer for 3 months and then drinking from that water, only that water. And I thought she was a bit crazy. I was like, what are you doing, Mom? She was like, no, it's okay. I'm healing my thyroid.
That's genius.
And then she went to the doctor, and after 3 months, he was like, what did you do? She healed herself completely.
Wow.
So the water absorbed the frequency of the binaural beats, and she healed herself. And that changed my perspective. This was like 20 years ago. Like that really changed the way I believe things and understood the power of water and sound, and how it's like the medicine. It is medicine. Everything that has to do with frequency, with their sound, with their voice. And it's amazing that we can heal ourselves with our voice.
Water has a memory, everyone. Dr. Emoto would be so proud of your mom. He'd be like, is he alive? He might be alive. I don't know why he used past tense. He is proud. That's so cool. Wow. That was 20 years ago. Your mom had that's brilliant. You know that, May? That's genius what she did. Wow. You don't hear that every day. That's so smart. She kind of supercharged the water.
Supercharged the water with that. And she was persistent. And actually, now when I do intuitive healing sessions, we'll get to that in a minute, but I just want to share that I create calligraphy art that is channeled, and I get instructions on how to use them. So a lot of the times I will get I'll channel something in drawing and then tell people to use it like a water charger. So they'll put that water on the drawing and drink from that water also for 90 days. And I didn't realize the connection of the 3 months, because I started seeing a pattern that the water, every time I would get water instructions, it would be 90 days. And then I remembered my mom with what she did for 90 days. And I guess it takes 3 months in order for something to shift in the body through frequency. With water, but I could be wrong. But this is what I've noticed from, I don't know, the information that I have so far.
And I am so excited to showcase your, what did you call it? Calligraphy. My wife was like, because we're looking for art for a kid's bedroom, and my parents just got a place in Florida, and they have we have a big the grandchild's room, which is like all these bunk beds, and my wife was like, we should put something with geometry in there to kind of like calm them. And I was
Oh,
like, yeah, we should. And I was showing her your, she's like, what are they? I'm like, she's like, that looks like your tattoos. I'm like, yeah, it's like, I mean, it's from the same source. I don't know how to, it's like, you know, it's like light scribe. I don't know how to, it's language, it's art, but it's what we would say. It's what we would call, you know, light. It comes from the light. I don't know how to, I didn't know how to tell her. I was like,
light that comes, that's light that is brought into the physical, that has a frequency in order to shift water, energy, bodies, people,
yeah,
blood. Like it has the ability to upgrade and to heal through a frequency. It's almost like bringing the tone and translating into the physical. The calligraphy art, that's like the how do you call it? Like when you give a prescription, it's more like a prescription. It's a bit different. If you want, I can show you, send you one, and you can see. It's a bit different than the sacred geometry. It's more like text.
we're going to insert it in this moment. I'll make sure I get the ones you're referring to, and I'll have
Okay.
I'll have my editor put it so people can see exactly what you're talking about right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Very cool. So it's so rare, but tell me what else. So what started to change for you from the time you started to have this experience? How did that begin to change your everything?
everything.
I was going to say
I
everything.
remember being like kind of like observing after my initial awakening. I remember, I think after a month, I've had this experience of, I'll share a story. I learned that I could, with my command, clear energy from my body. And at the time, when it ended with that other person, there was another person involved, another woman involved. There was like sexual energy that was being transmitted, and I wanted to release that energy out of my vessel. So I commanded to release sexual energy out of my body that wasn't my own, from a specific person. And so the next thing that happened, my body started doing this swirling sensation from my root, and almost like a tornado kind of sweeping all my chakras until that energy left my breath. And I think that was my initiation to like, whoa, I just released energy with my command. I'm really powerful. I can do this. I can actually command something and have it released through my body. So I was like, whoa. And then I said something, and in retrospect, I'm really glad I did it. But at the time, I just had no idea what I was doing. I
Yeah.
commanded to release all sexual energy from this lifetime and all my past lives and all my future lives.
It's a
That
lot of
wasn't
sexual energy.
I mean, but that's the purification process. And
Yeah.
intuitively, I wasn't realizing what I was asking. And then in the evening, I started purging. And then that was like midnight. And then I was literally purging until 7 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And my body went through this whole like thing, just like, whoa. And I really felt the energy like moving me. And I was like, okay, what did I do? What
You
did I
had like
do?
your own personal plant ceremony. No,
With the
no
Kundalini
shaman needed.
energy. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, you don't really need plant medicine. I think it's like the same
It,
idea. It's
it
just
is. Yeah.
different way. And I literally was, wow. That was the first time where I thought I was going to lose my life. I didn't understand what was happening.
Yeah.
But after that experience, I remember being like, so light in my body. I felt so light. And then I went to after 2 days, I drove to get some food, and there was a bumper sticker in front of me that said, "Believe it, woman." And and that's when I was like, okay, life just shifted. Like I can do anything if I command it and understand how I can work with this. And the reason I'm telling this story is just to know how powerful we are. And it shifted my whole life afterwards. That's when you realize you're not the same person you were before. You're a multidimensional being, and you have great power in your vessel. And every day was an exploration of what I can do. Like, what's the next step? And it's like teaching you along the way. It's not just it's like you sit with the energy, and the energy is going to show you every day more things.
That's right.
And then there's also interference, and you're going to learn about otherworldly existence, like things that exist in other worlds, because there's interference and you're open. that's a whole other story, but you kind of learn to be okay with it and live with it. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, when your perspective expands, you tend to see more of everything, not just it's, you know, I mean, yeah, you definitely see more unicorn sunshine and rainbows, but you also see, you know, more of the other shades and the other things. And sometimes it's, you know, if you are kind of unaware that those other things exist or are happening at the same time, it can be shocking, you know. I always remember that I talk with so many people who are like, yeah, and so the mailman showed up, and I remember that day I was like, oh my God, did you know? And I was like, yeah, you shouldn't have, probably shouldn't have shaken the mailman down and asked him if he knew what. He probably just thought you were a conspiracy theory maniac, you know. But
That's so funny.
it's so many people I talk to are like, yeah, you know, I'm like, yeah, that's like the first thing I think a lot of people do, and then they realize that, you know, it's better to just to keep quiet and keep going with what you're doing. Yeah, so that's you know, it's important what you're saying. It's important that people understand that intention shapes experience, and when you realize how powerful you are, you can begin to shape your intention to affect your experience. And that, because we all have that, that's an innate human, you know, experience, right? And whether you want to believe that you are powerless or not, you've done this before. And I mean that in every way. You've done it all before. And I'm sure there are times you can remember when your intention shaped your experience and vice versa. But I think it's important what you're saying. So you know, I appreciate the story. But yeah, keep going.
So where were we? I remember when I had that initial awakening. So that was December, and I was living in New Orleans at the time. And I remember Mardi Gras was February, and I was already like 2 months in. And I remember spending, because Mardi Gras in New Orleans, like the best time, it's carnival season, everybody's really happy. And I remember being kind of like standoffish and just like witnessing I remember just looking at everything that was happening from a different set of eyes, like from an awaking state. And whereas I was in different parties, and New Orleans can get really grungy and really sexy and
Yeah.
dirty really quick. And I remember just being there and kind of like witnessing the darkness and the
Oh
light,
yeah.
kind of just like really seeing it. And just, I don't know, I think my perspective, like from a different set of eyes, was completely different. And I didn't participate in all the events that I used to, and just kind of was really going inwards during that time. And I think a month later, I left to California. Knowing a few months before that happened, the awakening happened, I knew that I was going to go to California. I already felt it,
Wow.
that I was supposed to go somewhere else, that my time there was done. But yeah, and then California here, Nevada City, where I've been living, has been such a beautiful place for me to anchor all the
Very
magic,
cool.
all the
It
magic.
sounds great. I've never been, but I like the sound of it. Um,
Edgar Casey channeled that Nevada City would be the first city of light of all the awakened beings coming here.
my twin brother is going to be very interested to hear that. That's like his first actual spiritual tether was his interest in Edgar Casey and all things Edgar Casey. And I had to hear about Edgar Casey before I was interested in anything spiritual. I was like, wait, what did you say about this dude again? Of course, now I know, you know, he is legend, but you know,
Well, there's gold in the earth here, like gold was a
yeah.
big thing here, and there's still gold in the land, and it brings a lot of interesting people here, but
Oh,
mainly people that are, working towards love and high consciousness. But that
mm,
also has a lot of layers, but we're doing the best that we can here. And
of
a
course.
lot of like-minded people, and dance is huge, huge, huge here, like a
Wow.
huge ecstatic dance community, which really changed my life. I moved here because of the dance, and dance has literally been my church, my prayer, like learning when you're so open, also when the energy is open, movement is almost necessary in order to get to know
Hmm.
your body. And it's changed my life so much. Like, I don't know what my life would look like without dance.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. It's like a meditation. You know, I mean, every dance you give yourself to, when you just let go into it, that is meditation. That is the best of meditation, right? So, dance like I tell people, just close your eyes. If you're self-conscious about dancing, just close your eyes.
It
My,
also, Kundalini will move you.
yeah.
Like when you are that free and you're already like peeling layer after layer, because when you come dance and you haven't danced in a long time, you're going to show up with a lot of blockages. Like mainly your ego mind is going to be like,
Yeah.
playing a story. But once you start shedding those layers and you embody who you really are and what your body really wants to do and move, then there's just this magic that happens. And if you are awakened and your Kundalini is active, it will start moving your body and showing you new ways. It's really something.
Yeah, you won't have to worry much about it. You just go with the flow. You'll be bouncing all around the room. It's great. So and then I understand through our mutual friend, because it's so funny. We were having a conversation and he was like, "Can I make a referral?" And I was like, "Zach, you can do whatever you want, brother." I was like, he's like, "Okay, I have a friend I want to refer. I think she'd be a great guest." I was like, "I don't know, maybe you tell me." And then he told me about you, and I was like, yes. I was like, "No, absolutely." And he was like, "Okay." He's like, I'll send you, I'll introduce you. And I'm like, "Okay, great." But he was, how Zach is. He's very, kind of very pragmatic and logical and, to the point, he's like, she had like I don't know. She had a Kundalini awakening and now she's psychic. And I don't even know about any of that stuff. He's like, but, she does really well and she's great. And she's like, he was kind of like, if it's true, then it's true for her. And I was like, no, listen, you had me at, Kundalini experience and psychic, but your experience started. I feel like this becomes part of your experience once you kind of open everything up here, and start leading from here. You start to understand that there is an innate psychic experience that comes with being human, that you can access and not have a fucking, $20 reading store open necessarily. And in fact, I had a Russian scientist on, and he was a physicist, and he was telling me how in Russia they were testing people. They figured out how to test for psychic ability, and he was telling me how, honestly, he was like, I can, and he could test the DNA for it because they figured out the markers, and he was saying how 8 out of 10 people who thought they were psychic weren't. And usually it was the people who didn't claim, or would never tell people like, I am psychic, they had the greatest level of ability. And I just thought that was funny. Like, it makes sense, but yeah, but I want you to tell me about your, all that was so that you would share your psychic experience. Yeah.
Well, Zach started believing because I channeled information about our last president. I'm not going to say his name.
We'll get red flag. Don't say.
Yeah, I'm not going to say, but our last president, I said his last name through channeling, and I'll share more about my channeling in just a minute. But I had a date for his death, but I never said the first name. And the person that died was his brother a day before the date that I predicted. So when Zach heard, he knew, because I was talking about it for weeks before it happened. We were all waiting for it. And then it's like, oh, you met his brother. Wow. And that was like, for me, that was like, wow. I was like on point. It was so also to the date.
Wow. Was he freaked out? Was Zach freaked out? I bet he was freaked out.
I think he was excited. It's like, wow, May. I'm like, my mother, my brother, everybody called me. I'm like, okay, you met his brother.
Wow.
But we were all waiting because that was a big deal prediction. And I was like, okay, I'm predicting this. I'm going to talk about it. And then if it doesn't come true, there's trickery, or I'm not maybe a clear channel yet, but I knew. So I developed automatic writing. I went on Gaia TV one day and I saw this show called
Gaia is my number one advertiser. They're on all my go figure.
They're amazing.
Like, yeah, and I love them. That's all I watch, really. I mean,
So I
people are like,
watched,
you're sad, but I don't care. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
have you watched interviews with EDs, extra
Um, so
dimensions, extra?
the young lady who I had on as a guest, who I interviewed yesterday, her name is Rose Gita, and she is a guest of Ruben, who's a former guest of mine and a friend of mine, the host of the show, Ruben Langdon. And she was
Cool.
on the second season one. I think she was the last episode of the second season. I don't know if you saw that episode.
I've
Her
seen
name is
her.
Rose Gita. She channels. She's a channel, but I love that show. That show has changed my life. I met Ruben. We went on a retreat together in Hawaii. That's how I met Gita. Like just
Is
incredible.
Gita the one? I forgot the woman that I want to talk about. I forgot her name, but we can look it up. I don't know if her name is Gita. It maybe rings a bell, but there's this woman that was drawing aliens. Do you know who I'm talking
Oh,
about?
that's Nash Vash Vasha.
But yes,
Yeah,
yes, that whatever you're about to say, it's that.
yes. Oh,
Vash.
Vasha. Yeah. Vashta. Wait, what the hell? I don't want to say her name wrong. She's Eastern European and should probably kick my ass, but I want to say Vashta. Her artwork is incredible. I've been trying to get her on the
Incredible.
podcast. Yeah.
So I was watching that, and what blew me away is that she was drawing them and then not knowing like that people actually are going to connect with it. That they've
Yeah.
but when she exposed it, people came up to her and said, "Oh, I got kidnapped by this alien. Oh, I had dreams about this alien." Like all these people were coming to her. I'm like, I know this, and I thought like, whoa, this is really cool. What if I took a pen and sat with my Kundalini and asked it to write, like, show me, show me. And
Right.
so I took a pen and I tapped in. At the time, I would tap in. Today, I don't have to do this, but back then, I would like sit and I would like close my eyes. My head would flip backwards, and then it would go. It would do this thing where it would flip my head backwards, flip it forwards, right and left, and then I would be like tapped in. So I would do
Right.
that.
So many, listen, so many channels do that and so much more. Like I mean, it's not like you would stick out, doing that. People are like, why do they do that? It's all for show. I'm like, no, man, they're literally plugging in or they're clearing, you know what I mean? Like people just,
I mean,
they see
the
things and
energy is
they,
moving my head for me. It would be so weird. And also, in the beginning of my Kundalini awakening, what would happen all the time is my head would flip backwards. There's this space here that would crack all the time in the back of my. I don't really know the reason why it would do that, but it was almost like this part right here needs to be released all the time. Sorry, it needs to be released all the time. In order for this energy to work properly, there's something in the back of the neck. So like that would always be targeted, like first crack this area and then like tap in. So anyways, I hope that can help somebody understand
I'm
or,
sure someone needed to hear it. Yeah.
So when I took the pen and I sat down and I was waiting and then my hand started scribbling a lot. And actually I did try this before, but my hand did. I already tried automatic writing, but it scared me what came out. That was a few months before because it was scribbling and almost looked scary. So I left it alone. I'm like, I don't even know what this is. I
Wow.
revisited it after the show. And then I was like, okay, whatever comes through, I'm allowing it. And then I have everything documented, by the way, the whole
Oh my
evolution
God.
of
I can't wait to tell Ruben. I mean, I tell him all the time, like, dude, I told him in Hawaii, but his show, he made that show and he must have just thought people are just going to think I am fucking crazy, but it's affected so many people in so many ways. Like, I mean,
so many people are waking up now and need to see this. They
yeah,
need to know that they're okay and that they're sane. And actually, this is your birthright to be
right.
this and to have these gifts. I don't see it woo at all. I just find it like technology is the way I see it.
Yeah.
So what was cool is I was starting to draw these things. And then I started drawing like the star map, like a dot, a line, a dot, a line, a dot, a line. And it would like I drew this kind of like map and then it showed me A and then down B and like it scribbled A and then B. It was showing me A and B and then it wrote Sirius.
Hmm.
And then I asked, where am I from? And then I scribbled again, Sirius. So
Hmm.
I don't feel connected to Sirius. That I think that's where my soul sparked.
Mm.
originally. And then I started writing, I'm a Pleiadian, I'm a Pleiadian, I'm a Pleiadian, and please love yourself. And please love, this is like a whole page of I'm a
That's
Pleiadian
so
and please
Palladian
love
of you.
yourself. I'm a Pleiadian and please love yourself and please love yourself. And I'm a Pleiadian. And I'm like, fine, I'm a Pleiadian. Okay.
I get it. I get it. I get it.
And it was really fast. I was writing this so fast, almost like they were excited that I was tapping in.
Yeah.
And
I'm
then
sure there was that, I'm sure they were.
yeah. And that was once I discovered that there's this connection and this ability, I sat for months and asked questions and
Mm-hmm.
draw sacred geometry. I started drawing charts of sacred geometry over and over again every day. And for me, I was just like, whoa, this is amazing. What does this even mean? At one
Yeah.
time, I drew 50 charts of spaceships,
Wow.
and free energy, like a chart. I still don't know how to read it. But I have these charts and this is really woo. When I was drawing it, I'm like, am I going crazy? This is insane. And the charts came out so quick. I like did 50 charts in like an hour, just
Wow.
like almost like what's that show? It's called Stranger Things, when the kid is like channeling this.
Oh, yeah. Stranger Things. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
yeah.
was
Yeah.
drawing.
Yeah. Like, I'm like, yo, how is it, the adults not seeing these paintings and being like, what the fuck? Those paintings are like, big, like monsters in the back. Yeah. That's
So
crazy.
there's a part that kid is taking paper after paper and connecting them. That
Yeah.
happened to the first
Wow.
drawing that came out for me. It was like a big butterfly, like with all this like sacred geometry, and then this really long cord and the tree of life on the bottom, but it took over all my floor of my kitchen. So like I had maybe like 20 papers that I was drawing and connecting, taking another paper. I didn't have a canvas or anything. So
Wow.
just like A4 paper. I have the video of this. I can send you if you want to add it to this.
Oh, I will. Absolutely. And the pictures of the spaceships. So basically your place.
I would like to do a show on that. Maybe bring a guest that can help interpret it
Oh, I know a number of people. I mean, you probably may know them from Ruben's show. I know several people who I'm sure could interpret it, or at least interpret it from the perspective of who they connect with, which, it would be fascinating.
We could do like a collab show.
That would be cool. That'd be awesome. So basically your apartment looked like a beautiful mind meets like a woo-woo, like this crazy, I would have loved to, I'm gonna have to see the video. That's so awesome. I feel that's tremendous that happened, and that was born from a moment that you watched on a show, and you were like, that's I can't tell you. I mean, like, it's so clear to me now why we were brought together for so many reasons, but one of the most clear one that comes to mind is like, I found Ruben's show, but I was interested in Bashar and Abraham before him, and and I speak about it sometimes on the show, and the less I care about what people think about me, the easier it is to talk about, because I know why I was doing everything I was doing, but I spent kind of months working and getting into a trance channel and asking questions and answering questions and connecting with my, with my guides and my counterparts, and had a similar kind of few months, minus the artwork, and kind of channeling for my meditation group and people who I trusted, and being encouraged to pursue it, but at the same time, I didn't, it wasn't something that I wanted to become. It was something that I wanted to experience. It was something that I felt needed and called to do, probably because I was going to, or on some level knew I was going to be doing this with this microphone here and talking to people like you. And I think maybe I was kind of, I don't know, getting myself ready to be in a place to do that I could contribute to the world in a way that was meaningful, and not superficial, I guess. But it's so funny that you saw the show, and like I saw the show, and I reached out to Rob Gauthier. He was on the show. He channeled Treb. Remember him? Did you see that episode?
I
He
need to remember. This is a while back, and I'm definitely not going to remember the names. Like
okay.
names is not something that's going to come up. If you tell
Yeah.
me what they do, maybe.
Well, Rob channels the an 8-foot reptilian hybrid, um, big toothy grin.
I think I
The
remember
not
that.
very excited being. Like I don't know if you saw the
Bushar is
video
very-
of him channeling Treb. You see him like he's rocking back and forth in this like with he is just emanating joy and excitement. He's so excited to be talking to a human being. Like you've never, I mean, like a kid in a candy store, like a kid who just got every Christmas list delivered to him. He's so happy. You've never seen anything like it, right? I was so affected by seeing that episode and I connected with Treb and I had dreams and I had all these crazy experiences like connecting with Treb and kind of using the what ability I was fostering in myself and to it was so cool. It was crazy. That show is awesome. If you're interested in anything that is of this material, like if Bashar or people like Abraham Hicks and um, if you've read Jane Roberts, check out interviews with extra dimensionals on Gaia. It's a fantastic show.
Amazing.
Yeah, and it could change your life in a profound way.
It
Anyway,
changed my life.
mine too.
It changed my
Mine too.
life.
Thank you, Ruben Langdon. Yeah. So,
Putting that show together, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that he really took so many beautiful beings that are doing such amazing work and bringing them together and exposing
yeah,
that people that needed to see it.
absolutely.
Yeah, I have a friend here that channels Bashar, which is interesting.
Wow, really? Like,
He is.
does he have a trademark license? Because you
I
need one
mean,
these days.
I was very skeptical in the beginning, but he channeled Bashar for me. I don't actually like him. I'm like, I don't want to channel him anymore.
Yeah,
He's kind of interesting character, alien
yeah.
ET. But when he goes into modes of channeling and writing, he channels for like 7 hours, doesn't stop writing. Doesn't
Wow,
stop writing. He has paper and paper. And I asked him, what are you doing? He's like, I'm clearing karma. He's clearing karma, past lives, just through writing
wow.
information. Yeah, he's very
And what kind
interesting.
of information is coming through? Like, is it
You need to talk to him. He
the good
doesn't share
stuff?
it with me.
Because that'd be
I
the
can
best way
connect
to
you with
tell
him.
whether he's channeling or not. You get it, and
You
you're
can
reading it.
talk
It's
to
like
him in an interview. He's an
uh,
interesting person.
I'd want to sample his stuff before I went ahead and scheduled the interview. I'm not sure about that.
Okay. I get it. I totally get it. I totally get it.
Yeah, but
But he's very grounded. He's not like,
that's
he's a very
cool.
grounded human being. And
I can't have anyone on the show who channels Bashar who's not Daryl Anka because first of all, Daryl is now a friend and he
copyright.
I mean literally the copyright. You can't, like it's crazy. Like he's got it all. He can't even bring Bashar out because he's agreed with his his wife and his business partner that like, okay, there's Daryl and then there's Bashar. Like I can't, you can't be rolling them out for free anymore, like, and people are like, well, that's fucked up. But I'm like, not really. I mean, it's his life. You know what I mean? Like it's his whole life. My dog's just going to come in and be like,
Oh, hi.
what are you doing? You see her?
Yeah, he's adorable. No. He's like, are you guys talking about Bashar? I want to be part of this conversation.
She's like, that's my cue. Let me just get in place.
I also had a few times an ET. I don't know if it's my higher self or an extraterrestrial. I don't know, but there were 3 incidents, maybe 4, that this energy would start talking through my vessel. It would take over all my face. Like it feels literally like everything is like it's just something that comes
Plasma.
in and takes over your whole face. And it came out with a British accent. It was so bizarre. I actually don't let it come through because it's very uncomfortable for me. And also I don't know if I can trust it for me. That happened mainly when I was in quarantine, I think a year and a half ago. And then it kind of stopped because I was like, no, not letting this come through.
Yeah. Interesting. That's there's a few people that end up with a perfect British accent or kind of like Scottish, like this brogue. Like sometimes Bashar goes totally
Is that common?
like what I don't. It's not uncommon, but I wouldn't say it's the norm. I would say it's, I would say like 30-45% of channels.
That's interesting and good to know.
Like sometimes Bashar just his R's start tapping and rolling, and he starts lilting and Irish broguing or Scottish brogue. I'm like, whoa. I'm like, where the fuck did he learn to? I mean, it's not really him, but it's just the way he explains it is that that it comes out in the tone and corresponding frequency and inflections that are going to affect the most people, you know.
Ah,
So sometimes it's, and I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. When people ask questions like, how do they know our language? I'm like, well, they don't have to learn English. Okay. It has to do with this chakra here. And, there's a connection. So the language is known. You know what I'm saying? It's like
filtered also through the consciousness of the person that's like,
right.
I feel like the person that channels Bashar, I forgot his name, that he has already a very high dialect. So it's almost like he was chosen with his own dialect in order to bring the information through his filter, if that makes any sense.
It makes perfect sense. That's exactly what I would say too. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, I know that I am half Israeli, half American. And so my Hebrew is not perfect. My English it sounds good, but high vocabulary is not my thing, like high words and stuff like that.
Right.
So I think that for me, the art, the way it comes through, because I was a photographer before. So for me to bring that information through is through my art in a certain way. Also
Yeah.
through channeling light language, which it's just interesting the different information that comes through different channelers.
Yeah. No, I can hear your accent, but I do have an ear for those things. But it's funny because I was just telling my friend like how pretty the Israeli accent is, like how Hebrew can affect English. And I don't know. I just think the way it sounds when I hear women speak, it's such a pretty accent to me, and it's kind of a rare, and it's very slight in you, but I could hear it in you.
The Israeli accent like this one.
Well, yeah, then you get stronger and stronger. Yeah.
My English not so good right now.
Yeah.
No,
Then it becomes like it almost becomes like Russian. It becomes much stronger then, but it's very slight in you, and like you can hear it, of course, in like what's her name, Gal Gadot. I can't say her name. She was the one woman who played Wonder Woman. She's got a slight Israeli accent. Yeah.
When asked Zach, because we were friends for a long time, I moved to Israel when I was 9. So my vocabulary was like a 9-year-old vocabulary in English. I had the accent. So they would hang out with me, Zach and his friends, and every time they would say a word, and Zach has like this really, he's really intelligent.
Yeah, got a big brain. Yeah.
Words, and sometimes I'll listen to him and I'm like, there's too many words for me to ask what it means. So I'm just going to let it go. But I do ask several times, what does that mean? He's like, aren't you American? I'm like, I'm Israeli, remember? It's kind of funny how, anyway, people forget because I speak really good, fluent English.
You do. Yeah. You virtually no accent at all. It's very, very slight. But let's talk a little more about, we've covered your art a little bit. I want to get into some of it's so amazing to me how spirit has manifested itself in you and kind of just blossomed into this beautiful flower, with the art and the healing that you do. It's crazy. But let's talk a little bit about how you came into this practice that you have, and working with people and helping them kind of reconnect in a way that becomes beneficial for them, not only their health, but their emotional well-being. I'm sure all these things are connected, as we know.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think, maybe 2 years after my awakening, maybe a year, time, I don't remember exactly the timing, maybe a year and a half, let's say a year and a half, I hyperextended my knee dancing, and I literally had pain when I was walking. And at the time I was doing, I was making a living doing festivals, selling my artwork at different festivals in the country. And I couldn't do festivals if my knee was this way. So I remember after a few weeks going into meditation, and like in my altar, I was praying. I said, creator of all that is, please come assist me to heal my knee. And I didn't know what was going to happen. But at that moment, that was like a huge shift, another like initiation. I felt like a blanket of goosebumps, like literally an angel was hugging me and lifting my hands. Like my hands for the first time lifted on their own. Like before it was just a lot of movements of like moving me in spirals and like circular motions, but my hands literally lifted, were guided to my knee and guided to certain spots on my knee and started touching in certain areas, like to start healing it. And I kind of got scared. I was like, I at that moment I did get scared. I didn't really understand what was happening. I started crying because the shield, like the blanket of goosebumps to feel like I was held by an angel.
Yeah.
It's just like I started sobbing and crying because it was like, whoa, there's like a being on me right now. And that was like, that was a really big spark of, whoa, like that was a big deal.
Yeah.
And then I left it alone for like a month. And then I started festival season. The pain was still there. And so I revisited it. And this time it's amazing what started happening. My fingers, like I had this knowledge of being like a masseuse for like centuries or something. Like I knew exactly what to do. And not only that, it's like if I was going to touch a point that was going to be painful, before I would touch it, my hand would come up to me. I would be guided to give myself love.
Yeah.
Like really rub it and give myself
You're
love.
like, oh shit. So this is going to hurt. Okay.
Like this is going to hurt.
Yeah.
And then it would come and like, and then I would, it's working
oh.
through me. And then I would press really hard. And I was like, it's so painful, but I trusted.
Right.
The next day, my pain was gone. So, and then I was like, wow, I have like this ability to, there's this knowledge that comes through. I don't know how I know, I just know, right? Autopilot, like intuitive. Yeah. So I started offering people along the path that I met. Like if somebody said they had pain, I'm like, can I work on you? Yeah. Started offering my service almost to everyone. I'm like, I have this thing that I do. And so I practiced for about a year and a half. During that time, one time I sat in meditation and asked to heal something in my body, and my voice opened up and overtone singing. It sounds like this, started to come out. Like, and I was like, how did I do that? That like these sounds started to come through, and I didn't really know anything about overtone singing. I knew nothing about throat singing at the time. I actually had to it took me time to understand, like, where do I track this from? Where does it come from? And then I found Mongolia. I did some research to understand, and I didn't even know the name of it, but those were the first sounds that came out through my voice. And then maybe
did you scare the shit out of the person you were doing it? Were they like, what the? Because if you never heard anyone throat sing, it's like, ooh, it's a very deep, resonant sound. My soul brother who started this channel with me can throat sing, although he rarely does it, but he'll do it once in a while if I get him to.
So
throat chant,
the throat chants, I can't go that deep. It's more the overtone singing, but sometimes if I practice long enough, then I think it's harder for women. I don't know.
I'm sure it is. It's a very deep, sound. My God. Yeah. Yeah.
There are sounds that come out of my throat that sound almost like it's digital. When I get into these practices, into the full channel. But when that throat singing came out, the overtone singing came out, I was by myself. And then I already told people when I worked on them later, there's this sound that comes out, just try not to judge and just let it come through. So I was doing the healing with those tones for about, I would say like maybe half a year. And then one day I was on my yoga mat at home on quarantine. We were quarantining 2 years ago. And then language came out. Like it sounded a little bit Japanese, just like I was like, it's just coming out. I was like, okay, light language. Yeah. And that started coming through, and my light language has shifted tremendously. It had stages, like it's always shifting and always changing. And then mudras started coming in. And so there's like this whole thing. So the modality that I do in my healing service right now, it's like, it's already like there's a whole thing that happens. And I use the automatic writing in order to scan somebody's body before I touch them, because I've had incidents with entities, with people. And for me, the automatic writing, I literally can just sit with the pen and paper and ask, how can I assist this person? I can say the name. I don't have to see them. I don't have to know anything about them, just the name, tap into their field, and I will start writing. I will get information about what blocks they have, if it's what chakra it is, if it's front chakra or back chakra, light, right or left. If there's entities, how many entities, if the entity is aware of itself, not aware, or if it's there to attack. And if I can work with them, I can't work. There's certain ones that I can work with, and there's certain ones that I'm not allowed to. And so I get this clear, and also,
what do you say to the people who have an entity with that you can't fuck with? Are you like,
find a specialist, or somebody that has more experience than me?
You're not like, listen, man, you got, I don't want to scare you, but no, I'm just kidding. No, but
normally they know. Normally, if somebody has something that powerful, they'll know what I'm talking about. The ones that are not aware, people normally don't know that they have it. Most humans walk on earth with them. And the ones that are aware, they're not fun for me to work with at all, but they're possible. You can work with them,
right.
But it's not very fun. So the modality again, so I do the automatic writing. I get this description so I can tell the person also, like, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is what you have going on. And then I'll also know how many sessions it will take me to work on this person. So normally one block is equivalent to one session. So if the person has 3 blocks, it's going to be 3 sessions. If he has 15 blocks, it's going to take 15 sessions. It really depends. Everyone has their own work to do, right? And then when I put them on my table, there's a dance that happens between scanning the chakras and the meridians, which this is like my home base, the meridians here in the hands. I always go back to the hands. And a lot of scanning starts happening, and then pressure point, I would find the points that need to be released. It's a very vocal session. The whole session, I'm doing light language and overtone singing. I also work with Lemurian crystals. I know how to read them. It's not like in the beginning, I was like, how do you read crystals? But it's more about knowing how to work with them during a session. And I work with grids, and I move a lot of the crystals during the sessions while doing overtone singing and like removing and reorchestrating the body. And if people don't know what light language is, it's a coded higher frequency language that has the ability to remove energy out of the body, has the ability to remove entities out of the body and transmute it, and then bring in light and reorchestrate and heal the cells in the body. It also has the ability to activate the DNA, any knowledge that you have stored in your DNA. When you removed enough blockages out of the body, then, and your soul is ready to bring that knowledge forward and that light forward, it will awaken it in you.
Right.
So I've worked on several people that after I worked a few sessions, or maybe after one session, they started speaking light language if their soul was ready.
Right.
So it's really amazing to see how that starts
and
happening.
You can learn. I'm not sure, May, if you help people learn, but there's more than one way to learn. If you feel called to that, if you're listening to this and you're like, I want to learn, I wonder if I can learn. Of course, I think anyone can learn, and it's a matter of getting yourself and getting yourself to a place where you can allow the light language to come through. And that's, it may sound far out, but it's not so far away. It's anyone can learn to do it, especially if you feel called to do it. So I don't know if it's something you teach, but I know a wonderful teacher. His name's Daniel Scranton. I've had him on my show. He's an amazing channels many entities and archangels, and really incredible dude. Constant light coming out of this beautiful man. He lives in Hawaii. I think he lives in Maui with his wife and child. And anyway, he teaches an awesome class where he just works with people, getting them to channel light language, and vocally.
I never, so this is the thing, like have people come up to me and say, hey, do you teach? Like, how do you do mudras? And I really don't know because I was
Yeah.
taught for tuition. So I don't know, but it would be nice to maybe do a course maybe with him to learn how to teach it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how to teach it. I just allow, when people ask me, I'm like, go start meditating.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
go to where I started, like start through meditation, because that's where you're gonna get to know yourself the most.
You'll have to check out his podcast. The first time he started channeling vocally, he was on a massage table and he started channeling light language, and this masseuse was like, what? She was like, what? Oh, what? And I can only imagine. He was like, oh, sorry about that. I couldn't, yeah, couldn't keep it in. Must have really freaked her out.
Well,
but anyway.
a good way to introduce yourself to light language, if you haven't seen it, watch The Hobbit. There's a part where I think, what's her name? Liv Tyler, she is an elf, or I think an elf is what they were. What was she?
Yeah, they were elves, yeah.
So there's a part where she's healing someone and she starts speaking a different language, and it's exactly that. Like it's in all these hidden movies. It's like it's always been there. It's just a language of a higher frequency that has the ability to heal. So it's been around for a very long time.
Yeah, and if you ever watch, if you watch Lord of the Rings and you listen to the Elvish language that Tolkien wrote, Tolkien was a channel. Like don't let anyone tell you differently. The Lord of the Rings, that whole lore, the reason why it resonates so much with humanity, the reason why Ian McKellen won an Academy Award playing I was going to say swear again. I should stop using the F word so much. Playing a freaking wizard was because that movie is grounded in so, in so many realities that human beings have, relations to, like with everything that you see in a movie has, it's crazy. But the Elvish language specifically is, I think, very like easy example of just like light language coming through people, and that's why you could basically watch even without the subtitles and know kind of what the elves are expressing to each other, even though you don't know exactly what they're saying. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I think that you should go. Yeah. If you're curious about it and this is the first time you're being introduced to light language, then you can go and like check it out. It's nice to know when you're already in this path and you know what you're doing, like, and you're introduced to it and you're doing it, and then you see it in like different movies. You're like, oh, it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the healing, so pretty much I think I covered most of it. Is that
you answered like all 5 of my questions that I wrote down, and I didn't even have to ask you. Thank you went through okay. It all basically.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Thank you.
What were the questions that you wrote? I'm curious.
I wrote like, how do you use, how do you scan, and how do you use the meridians, and, my questions were like basically everything that you were just kind of like going through and pointing out for me. And I mean, like I am still curious about how you use the meridians to map, like how that comes to you, I guess. Is it totally intuitive, or like, do
totally
you see?
Intuitive?
Yeah.
It's totally on autopilot. And I think I in the beginning, I didn't even know it. I was just trusting that wherever I'm guided to. And my mom couldn't move her finger. It was stuck for 3 years. And I did 2 sessions on her. And the second session, after a month, she called me and she had full mobility. She didn't do anything. Wow. She went to chiropractors. She went to people to help her, and nobody could fix her. And 2 sessions brought her back to complete mobility in her finger. So when I was starting to see that actually what I'm doing was really helping people, I already knew, like, people didn't even have to tell me what's going on. Like, they would say they're in pain. They didn't even have to show me, because a lot of people think I would be guided to where it hurts. But actually, sometimes I don't even touch where it hurts. I would touch everything around their body to release it first, and then maybe a little bit on the spot. So it's just, it works. It's so intelligent. The energy that comes through is the most intelligent. It's just so intelligent. It's like cosmic knowledge. It's infinite knowledge that's coming. But to say that it comes with a manual and I can explain it exactly,
it's really hard to explain these things. Yeah, I understand. Look, I think most people who are listening at this point aren't too stuck on, they have an understanding of just kind of how tricky it becomes to articulate something that happens in the moment to you while you are, very much in, a flow state, for lack of a better term for it, an altered state of consciousness, because that's what these states are. When you're channeling, it's an altered state of consciousness. If we had an EEG of your brain, and we were looking at the hemispheres, they wouldn't look like mine does right now. At least I don't think they would. They would look like, if you were looking at Michelangelo's brain while he was painting, I'm sure it would be lit up like the Rockefeller tree. There's all this communication going on in both hemispheres, and that's because there's all this energy and electricity happening in the mind, and we know that's what happens to people in flow states, and artists, and sometimes athletes who are just in the zone, who just can't miss. They're like, people are like, how are they doing that? It's like magic, right? The same thing with channelers, when they hook up their brains and they see all this gamma brainwave activity happening. Also in meditators, very much, it's an incredible experience. It's just another reason why you should stop procrastinating and start meditating like you should. Sorry, I couldn't.
It's true though. It's true. And I don't meditate as much as I used to. Right now, my meditations comes in different forms. It's like on the yoga mat, it's breath work. It's like during my yoga practice, I stop and I do pause. Like there's different movements that you can do, and there's different, but if you're just a beginner, I think that meditation is so important to like really make space. What it does is it really creates space between the thoughts. People think like, oh, I'm going to go meditate and I need to clear my mind, but it's not exactly that. It's just witnessing the mind. It's sitting and witnessing whatever is there, and not judging the thoughts, and not allowing your judgment or your personal emotions to you're learning to separate your emotions from your thoughts. And once you start separating your emotions from your thoughts, it starts making space, just like clouds in the sky. Osho used to talk about in his books, like how thoughts are like clouds. And so you don't really judge clouds, they're just there. So if you're just witnessing a cloud, it's going to move away eventually. And then if you're witnessing another cloud, and eventually there's going to be blue sky. That blue sky is you. That's where you're going to find your answers to who you really are, and get to know who you are and your powers. Pretty much. And
there's this myth that you can be bad at meditating, and it's complete nonsense. It's just, there's no such thing as a bad meditation. There's really no such thing as it. There's only the practice. And the more you can understand that, the better you're going to be at it. There's a paradox for you. You're going to become a better meditator when you realize you can't be a bad one. You can only get better at it. I don't know. There's something very paradoxical about that statement, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you get to a place where that little voice in your head that tends to drive you crazy, that one that comes on to make sure that you can't, that you're going crazy in your body, whether it's, in anxiety or in guilt. It's that little voice that you would do just about anything to be quiet, whether it's exciting you too much, whatever it is. That's the voice that you learn to quiet. That's the voice that you get firmly, kind of in your pocket, and you can hear him or her when you want to, but you have the choice, and wouldn't that be amazing? I think for people, a lot of people who deal with a lot of stress and like being kind of, tortured, for lack of a better word, by this voice, which most of the time really isn't even theirs.
Yeah, a good book, The Untethered Soul, I think, is a good book for a beginner.
I knew you were going to say that. Yes, The Untethered Soul.
The Untethered Soul. When I little silly story, when I started meditating, I think after 3-4 months that I was meditating and already awakened in my Kundalini energy, I had this expensive printer that I needed to send back to FedEx through FedEx because it wasn't working really well. And I put it in the back of my van. When I opened the van in the back, in the middle of a really, really busy street, my printer just flew out and broke all over the floor. And I was
Um,
just like looking at all the pieces, and the old version of me would freak out. And then
I
this new
bet.
version of me, witnessing myself in the experience, somebody came from the street and gave me a piece of my printer, and he's like, "You dropped something." I took this
Oh
piece.
my God.
I went to sit in the front of left the printer on the floor on the street, and just sat in my van. I was just sitting and smiling. I'm like, wow, I'm really reacting to this pretty good. I was really witnessing my reaction to the whole experience.
Yeah.
And then collectively, okay, how do I take care of this? But I think that is my best story about what meditation shifted in me. It's my
Yeah.
reactions to things and my emotions to things. Because
Totally.
you really learn to witness things as they're happening without, allowing your overreactions to come through, and just like, I don't know, it changed a lot in me, in my life, and the way to react to certain situations.
And the more people I speak to who are new at the meditation thing, I think it has to do with, the planet and kind of where we're at. And that may be a bit woo woo for some people to hear. And, like, where are we at? Well, we're in the middle of a mass awakening, in case you haven't noticed. Maybe you're not on the side of it that sees it that way, but that's what's happening, I think, clearly. There's a lot of old systems unraveling, a lot of obsolete and antiquated ways of thinking, going the way of the dinosaurs, finally, thank God. But I think one of the people who are just kind of getting it, like I was speaking to one of my son's friend's fathers. The kids it was his birthday party. It was a very small gathering. And he was telling me how he just, like, 3 weeks before that, he just started meditating. He started doing 10 minutes a day, and now he's doing 15, and he was doing 20. And it's been about 3 weeks. And he's like, man, I'll tell you what, he was like, I'm more patient. I'm more this. I feel I have more energy. He was like, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. And, I'd say he's about my age, maybe a few years older than me. He's like, I can't believe it took me so long to start. And I was like, it's crazy. And, like, he didn't even know that I was, that I'm a daily kind of practitioner, and then I'm into all this stuff. But of course, I'm sitting there having lunch for them while our kids run around and play. And I was like, that's incredible, man. But that's like 3 weeks, and all these things, all these changes that he experienced
Like
kind of
for me
immediately.
too, like 3 weeks and I had my Kundalini awakening. It's an interesting, when the soul is ready, right? Like
Yeah.
the teacher will come, and pretty much the teacher is that source energy, the Kundalini that comes online. I see it like as a vision of popcorn, what's happening in the world right now, of just like
Yeah.
people are popping up, like, oh, they're online. Oh, they're online, coming out of the matrix, like unplugging from the matrix, like, oh, what?
Yeah.
Really? Wait, there's more? And I see it every day. I see it every day.
That's a good
Um,
word. Popping. We use that word a lot. Yeah. Yeah. People are popping,
we're
especially
popping.
for Kundalini. It's a great word. Like popcorn.
My Kundalini's popping.
Popping all over the the room. That's awesome. Yeah. So yeah, I just, so many things that you offer, as far as your, like, I mean, between your portfolio and your sessions. I want to have, like, I wish I was in California. I'm gonna send you my name and see what you can figure out about me.
Sure.
Just to
I'd
see
love
what's
to.
up. That'd be
Yeah,
cool.
I've been doing a lot of channel tattoos. That's like the new thing right now.
Oh
Ever
yeah.
since I've been channeling like light language, you can go on the Light Scribe Art Instagram to see. But people are just messaging me from all over the world right now on Instagram. Oh, I want a tattoo. I want a tattoo. And so, yeah, that also is a very specific niche, because I will ask for your name, because you said you wanted something for
Yeah.
your frequency. So I would ask for a name and your intention, and then connect to source and say your name and say what your intentions are, and then I would get a design. And it's very different for each person. It's really neat. It's
Mine
also
would
something I
probably
really
be
enjoy
pretty interesting. Wow, that sounds so tempting.
doing.
I mean, I would love to see what you got from me either way, just because of how kind of parallel our experiences are in a lot of ways. It would be fascinating to see what came through. I had a session once with, she was my first, she's 001 on my podcast list. She was the first episode that we numbered. and she's an incredible psychic and an incredible channel. And the material that comes through her is it's on another level. Like, when people kind of just get into this and they try to listen to her, they're like, I don't know. She lost me. I'm like, yeah, she's really kind of, she's been doing this a long time, and she channels like Mary Magdalene a lot. And she's really on another level. So you gotta kind of have the groundwork to be able to follow her. Sometimes she goes really metaphysical, but she's a really powerful psychic. And when I was like 4 or 5 months into like meditation, like learning trance channel and doing all this work on myself. And I saw she was on Ruben's show. She was on Ruben's show. Michaela. I cannot believe I cannot remember her last name.
It's okay.
Michaela is her first name. Michaela Sheldon.
Okay.
And then the neurons connected, and then I remember the name. Michaela Sheldon, incredible woman, incredible psychic and channel. And she has a light worker.
Go back and watch the show.
Yeah. But so I signed up for this, and she was like, she was booked for 6 months. I was like, Jesus, I wonder if she was always this busy, or if the show really helped her. But like, so much changed from the time I signed up to the time that she saw me. But she showed up and she was like, okay. She was like, I've never seen you before, right? I was like, no. I mean, I've seen you, but on the show, but I'm a fan. I was like, she's like, okay, I just want to make sure. She was like, because I have a lot for you. Like, a lot came through for you. I was like, oh, really? She's like, yeah, I filled up 1, 2, 3, 4 pages, 4 yellow legal pad. I was like, that's all for me. She's like, yeah. She's like, so if we could just get started, I'm like, that'd be great. We could just let's go. And she told me all these things, like.
It's amazing. I want to get a reading with you. It's amazing. You're saying like you have to prepare a year in advance.
It was like, holy shit. I was like, when I signed up, she's like, yeah, that always happens. She's like, I was like, no, but I'm a lot clearer now on things than I was. It's so funny. She told me so many things. Like, she was like, I see UFOs, and it's so funny now. My intro ended up being these UFOs. I'm like, that's probably what she saw. Like, because I didn't.
Nice going to an oracle. It's like Neo in the Matrix that goes to an oracle to get a reading. Just kind of like, it's really cool. I like it. It's every once in a while. It's nice to get an oracle reading.
Yeah, it's cool. I went back and had another one. She's awesome though. I learn a lot from her. I continue to learn from her because she's really. She's a transmitter, she has this gift where she can affect, like, she gets 200 people on her course. Every few months she has a course, and she'll channel it. It's a single hour every week, probably for like 4 or 5 weeks. And, maybe she calls it a course. And so one course, it'll be like the Magdalene. She calls them a collective, but it's Mary Magdalene is probably the most recognized personality of this energy that comes through her. And oftentimes, the Mary Magdalene that we understand to have had a relationship with Yeshua will come through and speak about her time here on earth and what she learned in the ancient schools of alchemy in Egypt, and talk about like what she was there to do with Jesus and what it was like, what they had those schools for, and how she was a part of it, how Jesus's mother was a part of it, different sect of the same, the ancient schools, the mystery schools of Egypt. That's what they called them, because they were so mysterious. They didn't know what went on there. And unfortunately, so many of those traditions were lost, but you have a lot of people tuning into what went on. And, a lot of spiritual teachers are bringing forth aspects of that in their teachings. And it's incredible to see that, and experience it, like following some of the people that I have, like Dr. Joe Dispenza. He's a big fan of the old mystery schools, and he sets things up at his workshops and retreats where it's like, it's very much in the same vein, like putting people in a position to open their heart instead of letting fear take over. So he can't do them anymore because of COVID, but he used to have these physical activities. Like, so one time he got this company, we rappelled off a 50-story building, right? Like I used to be afraid of heights. And I was like, I thought everyone was joking when they were like, oh, we're just going to go over the building. I was like, that's funny. No, really. Do you know what the physical activity is? Like, what's it going to be? I'd like to know. And they were like, we're just going to, and then I walked out and I looked out the window and people were looking, they were pointing, and I'm like, how many times are you guys going to tell the same joke? And they were like, no, look, they're coming down. And I could see people rappelling down the side of the building. I was like, holy shit. We're really fucking doing that. I was like, that's fucking crazy, man. Like opening your heart in the face of it, and really in the face of it, something that normally shakes you to your core, something that you never could imagine you would do. He sets people up, and we had people who 1,000 people went over and rappelled down a 50-story building. He got this company set up to do it. I mean, imagine. And I think the oldest person that did it was 79 years old or something like that. 79-year-old rappelled down the side of a 50-story building, right? It was incredible. And like, I went down so slow because I didn't want to cheat. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to like, let me get this over with, because you can control how fast you go down. But I wanted to take my time and continue to kind of open my heart in the middle of it. Cause I used to be so scared of heights. Like I would get vertigo real bad. And I couldn't even go near the edge because I felt like I was going to like topple over in a dizzying spin. You know what I mean? I felt like I was out of control. But
after that experience, did the fear go away?
So after my first experience with Dr. Joe, I lost my fear of flying and I didn't even realize it. Like I flew home from Henderson, Nevada. And it wasn't until afterwards when I was going to fly to another retreat like 2 months later, because I was like, this feels like it's going to change everything for me. I need more, I realized that on my flight home, I didn't like kind of like white knuckle the person next to me when we took off or when we landed. I was like, huh. And then flying out, I had no fear. Like usually I'm like, I used to go through this litany in my head, like my children and my life, and it's been fun, but this could be the takeoff, this could be the landing. I don't know, something about takeoff or landing. But then, and my mind would start to go to these places. But after these meditations, after this retreat, I felt so connected to everyone that those feelings that I could be lost to them vanished, and I was no longer afraid. And after that weekend, or after that week, going over the side of a 50-story building, I lost my fear of heights.
Congratulations. That's a big deal.
It's crazy. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm talking way too much. Forgive me.
Okay.
Yeah. So what was it like being in the army, man? Like we hear about that all the time here, but you had experience.
I remember when I got the call, I was like, I'm not going, Mom. She's like, you got to. It's like a story. I'm like, what am I going to do there? I'm a hippie. I was such a hippie. Like, I just didn't know. I was like, I guess I'm going to do this now. And I always wore my hair down. I was kind of like, I don't know. I think I was really lucky. As far as like what my service was, I was serving 7 days on base and 7 days at home. They call it 7-7. So half of my service, I was at home with friends and family. And half of it was, I was serving in the desert in a place called Mitzpe Ramon in Israel, and served in the desert. And I was in the Air Force. And I got good, like quality food and good, like military can be really not the best quality of living. Right. And I did a nice situation. I had a good situation.
You got lucky. Yeah.
And I had a lot of fun. I know it sounds weird. Like we would play pranks on each other, and like, it was like, we were 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. So you make the best of what you can. So
that's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me.
I got to shoot an M16 a few times.
What'd you do?
I got to shoot an M16 a few
nice.
times.
That's fun.
Bigger than my body.
You were like, what do I do with this thing?
Yes, so big. But I was actually really good at like practice. So I mean, I did
Nice.
that.
No, I
Done
mean,
that.
I grew up in Pennsylvania, so my dad is a gun collector. He reloads his own bullets. So I grew up around guns and shooting guns, and it's something very fun and exciting about it. And it's good to learn to do, because you have to quiet your mind and control your body in order to get good at it. So there's something there.
Yeah, I'm glad I did it. I think it taught me a lot. There's something about um, spending time with people that you've never thought that you'd spend time with from all over the country, people that you would never even like, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's people of all sorts, and it teaches you to get along with everyone and to share with everyone. And so it's a huge teacher. And so I'm really glad I had that experience and have that in my memories. Like
Yeah.
and I think it's important too. Honestly, Israel is a really tough country. And
Yeah.
I wish the reality was different, but it's not.
It's a little crazy now with what's happening over there with the medical procedure that we may not mention on social media.
It's really an intense country.
Yeah, and they do
Like
everything
that
very
was
intensely. Clearly, I'm like,
extreme.
what the fuck's going on? Why would they? I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't understand a lot of things these days, mate.
I know. I think it's just being okay with not knowing and being okay with not understanding. That's kind of how I feel all about it. And the crazier the world gets, the more my magic is becoming really awesome. I'm like, people are living in a
Yeah.
certain frequency, and I'm also living
No,
in a
that's a
certain.
good mantra. What you said just now. The crazier the world gets,
The
what did you
more
say?
magic.
The more
Yeah.
mad. I like
The
that.
crazier the world is, the more crazy my magic is expanding and like upgrading. And like, I'm you can really see a split. I see a
Yeah.
split of people living in fear and being controlled. And then there's people that are sovereign beings that are being like, wow, we're doing it so different. This is like an opportunity to heal ourselves, to get together, to communicate, to live in community and do
Yeah.
things from our hearts and dance and like love even harder. And that's
Yeah.
the reality that I'm living in currently. And it's wonderful.
Yeah. No, you hit the nail on the head. Absolutely. Um, it's happening. It is something so beautiful about it. Um, and I was just talking about this, the schism, the split, and it's like, if you needed proof that we create our own realities, just look around you. There's evidence of it everywhere, right? I mean, like, there are a lot of people who are like the line to get tested for the thing, it it starts on this block and it went that way and that way and that way. And I'm just like, I just want to I want to put on an outfit that says something like I'm doing a report, and I just want to ask every single
Doing what?
person. I don't know, like I want to make myself look presentable and get like I don't know, like a pen and paper, like I'm a reporter, and just walk up to every single person and be like, I'm just doing a survey. Can I ask you why you're getting tested? And just see what they say. I mean, I have a good feeling what I've done it before, and the answers I got were not surprising. Like one guy was like he was like, what? I'm like, okay. I'm trying to get an idea of like, why are you getting tested? He's like, well, and he kind of looked around and he was like, to be honest, I haven't had a day off work in 4 months. And I was like,
Wow.
oh. He was like, yeah, so I'm just kind of hoping.
I had a friend tell me that he just wants to go get a beer in Israel. Like somebody that went to somebody that served the military with me. I'm like, why are you going to go get this thing like that they're giving everyone? He's like, because I really want to just go get a beer. We can't go anywhere. I'm like,
Oh, really?
great.
Yeah, he wants to get the jab. Yeah. No, these people just want to get tested. As far as I understand it, I mean, I think actually they're giving the jab at these places now, but everyone was in line to get tested, like either a PCR or an antigen test. And I'm like, I understand Some people are traveling, but not every one of these people is traveling. I don't know what the fuck they're doing or what they're watching, but who's telling them they have to be tested in order to go someplace? But I'm like, you don't gotta be tested. You just go. If you feel good, go. You're not gonna kill your grandmother. Bunch of maniacs.
Yeah, the world is really interesting place to be alive right now. There's a lot happening
I
between
know.
awakening and people popcorning a wake up, and then people also going into a deeper sleep, into more of
Yeah, more fear.
control.
My,
And what I'm trying to navigate is the balance between both, because not putting people, like even people that get jabbed or decide to do get
yeah,
that test, is to also hold space and love them
yeah.
anyways. Like, what are we gonna do?
I thought
Separation is
about like trying to carry water to all of them. I'm like, but I would need like through 200 bottles. There's a lot of people. Yeah, no, I know you're right though. We do have to make space for them. And you know what? I think the more space we make for them, the more they're going to come around and be like, well, wait a minute. A fourth one, a third one, a fourth one. What's going on? You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
what's going on
I'm like,
exactly? And
listen,
it's
come
been
over
2
here.
years. It's been
Come
two
over here.
years.
Here, our arms are open to you. Come over here so we can continue to ask what's going on, because that's all some of us are doing, is asking questions. And we're not against anything. We just want to know what's up because we see something's not right. And so if you also see something's not right, come over here and ask questions with us. You know what I'm saying? We got lots of room. Yeah.
Mm.
But so I want to ask you, because I'm very curious about the answer.
Okay.
You're like, no, it's a good question. What and I love asking this question, but because it's so different for every person. But I love asking this question to my the channelers I have on and the people who are plugged in like you are. If you were leaving and you could plant a seed, make a suggestion, whisper into the ears of everyone, something that would allow for them to have a greater expression of love and joy and a greater experience on the planet, just in general. If you had a few words that you could just plant that they were receptive to and they would hear and they would wake up tomorrow with, what would you say to them?
I would say that's a good question. I would say that there's no such thing as mistakes. Any step that you make is a piece of a puzzle that's going to teach you your highest mission. Anything that will seem like a failure or things like, don't let that stop you moving forward. Don't let heartbreak, or don't let a failure of something that you try to do or believed in stop you from moving forward, because every failure is a gift to keep going. Every failure is just contrast to learn more about yourself, and contrast to learn what the right thing is to do. And it's in the doing. It's in the doing. You can also say you don't have to, like Osho, you don't have to do anything, just being. But I actually think in the doing, you are learning about yourself. And like, there's a difference of people that dare and people that don't dare. And if there's anything that you have a curiosity in your heart, that you are curious about doing, if it's any kind of creative endeavor or anything that you have a passion about, don't let the inner voice or the conditioning in the external make you think that you can't do it, because you're made out of source energy and you can do anything that you want. And it's baby steps. I can say that when I did Fun Cake, when I had that pancake business and I thought I was going to be a millionaire, I went straight to being like, I'm going to be a millionaire. I was like running. And a shark bit me.
Right.
So, but I learned from that experience. But what I'm saying is, like, then later when I became an artist, I started off as a street artist in New Orleans. I sold my art on the street. And then I learned, what art was selling. Oh,
Mhm.
this is a good piece. So I started producing more, making them bigger. And then,
Yeah,
like, learned that I think that it's in the baby steps, where we really, it's the journey, not the destination, is what I'm trying to say.
it's
It is the
beautifully put.
journey, not the destination. Enjoy the journey, enjoy the baby steps, enjoy being curious about your path and not being afraid of it.
Yeah,
I hope that.
because there is no such thing as failure. There's such
No,
thing as feedback. There's such thing as, learning, but failure is just this idea that unfortunately we teach still. Maybe
another
one day we won't. Go ahead.
another thing I would share that helped me a lot in my life, and I grew up with a lot of, like, my conditioning in my childhood had a certain structure to my pain body and to who I am today. And it's important for this path. And okay, I'm just going to share that this came to me this week when this woman was talking about how we come as souls into the physical in order to clear karma and to clear all of our ancestral lineage. And this is the only space in this physical that we can do it. When we pass on and leave the vessel, we don't get to do that in a non-physical form.
Right.
So take advantage of this space in your body, in the physical, to do that work. And if you have that work to do, maybe there's children that are coming here and they're all bright light.
Yeah.
I keep thinking about all the souls that are coming in right now, but if you have that, if you are carrying pain, if you are carrying conditioning, if you have blockages, if things are not working out for you like the way you want them to, and you're starting to awaken into that, take the time to do that inner work, because it pays off so much, not only in this lifetime, but lifetimes to
That's
come,
right.
and as a soul.
If
So,
not now, when?
yeah. Oh, and any challenging experience that you're going to have with another physical human being in interactions, your dynamic, bless it. Those are the mirrors. Those are the things that are happening in order for you to see it and amplifying it. So it's really, doesn't matter how much you're frustrated or feeling challenged or like feeling a victim or whatever. It's really important that you recognize that it's actually a gift.
Yeah.
In order for it to expand and to see yourself through the experience, in order to transmit and transmute and ascend into higher states of love.
That's right. Beautifully put. I'm going to make sure that we include a link to, and I mean, this is going to be the most visually compelling podcast I've ever done, because it's going to be a meteor shower of your artwork. Okay. And your photos, and if it's okay with you, everything that we can pull from your website and your portfolio. It's going to be awesome. And it's so great to talk to you, May. I'm so glad that Zach was like, oh, I know this person who I think would be a great guest. He was right on. You were a perfect guest, and it's been such a pleasure talking to you. I can't wait to see how visual this episode becomes in the edit. And it's so cool hearing your experiences, and I'm a huge fan. I don't know if you noticed.
Oh, thank you.
I really might send you my name. I mean, you know my name, but I might get one of your things and see what happens.
Sure, I would be honored. That would be amazing.
That'd be cool.
That would be amazing. And yeah. I'm also, I'm getting to know you, and you're also just a bright light, and it's amazing the things that you've done and the people that you've met and the journey that you're on. So yeah, this feels really resonant, and thank you so much.
You're welcome. I can't wait to tell Ruben. He's going to be like, wow, he's going to be very excited. It's cool. But well, thank you so much for your time, May. I appreciate it.
Welcome.
And I'll be in touch. If I am ever by Nevada, what do you call it? Nevada City?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm definitely stopping over for an appointment.
Yeah,
Very
for
cool.
sure, for
Um,
sure.
but well, you take care and you have a wonderful and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And thank you again. And I'll be in touch for sure.
Yes, let me know when
For
this
sure.
creation is
Thank you, May
complete.
May. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you so
It's a
much,
pleasure.
love.
You take
Okay,
care. Bye.
bye.